Hello, good morning, and welcome to Smart Men's Business. I'm Anju Barije with Masi Katsime this week, and definitely heading into the discussion relating to the public-private partnerships, and of course getting to understand that Africa has an infrastructure gap of about 130 to 170 billion dollars, and of course there are anticipations that the public-private partnership will be quite vital to ensure that this is actually reduced in that line. And also taking a look at the National Development Plan, Uganda for the next 5 years needs infrastructure of about 197 trillion. That is Ugandan shillings. So you can see all those figures still relates to the collaboration between the public and the private sector. Well, Masi, good morning. Heading into our today's discussion. Otherwise, how are you this morning?
I'm very good. Whoever is tuned in, thank you for making it. We are grateful to God for you making it this very morning. And of course, my name is Masi Katsime, and regarding today's very interesting topic, well, last year there were guidelines that were launched to boost the local economic development. That was the public-private partnerships here, and of course those guidelines were set to help direct people as they look forward to empowering economic development in our country, Uganda, whereas local governments in Uganda were entrusted with the responsibility of planning economic development, infrastructure, utilities, social infrastructure, and of course public services in their respective cities and towns. But however, there were issues of limited financing, which has always been the talk of Uganda. The issue of financing, fine. We have we have our problems, our issues, but then what we lack is appropriate financing.
Yeah.
Even in every budget, much as the budget is laid down.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, even when the supplemental is given, we still want to have more. What could be wrong, when it comes to financing?
Of course, quite lots of aspects come in there, because now we see the perspective of proper planning, and misallocation of resources, and you find that sometimes when these resources are allocated, there is not what we call opportunity cost being put in place, getting to understand where do we need to prioritize. So the priority bit of it, sometimes we lack that professionalism in line with that. But of course, still, we see the Uganda Development Corporation, which is actually redefining the financing of the public-private partnerships. And later on into the show, we shall be having officials from the Uganda Development Corporation to break down this discussions further at the Insight Hour. Now, the Uganda Development Corporation is redefining the financing mechanism for public-private partnerships. Of course, the Uganda, the corporation says that it is refining its financing mechanism when you look into this to support a wider pipeline of critical projects through which it definitely intends to drive its public-private partnership via the capital injection. But however, still on that note, we get to realize that Engineer Godfrey Ruhirira, that is Uganda Development Corporation's board chairman, says that the unit says that the joint venture structures are the state-owned institutions, which we already know very well, that is in the multi-billion shilling state, that is a good example is the Speak Resort, that is Convention Center, and the focus will definitely be new projects. I think, as of course, the government is looking towards that. So this is what exactly even President Yoweri Museveni was urging for, as much as if there be a gap, that is in the infrastructure, because as much as you know that it's the role of the government to provide infrastructure, that is to the different, to distribute infrastructure in the country. If the public sector can actually, the private sector can actually come and invest into this, then that is, driving economic growth at a faster rate.
Yeah, I do agree actually. Most of the monies that we have in Uganda are mostly predominantly in the private sector. And so last year actually they emphasized it, collaborating with the private sector. We saw the private sector foundation of Uganda, being partisan and participating in most of economic development, talking about youth empowerment, talking about women. So I believe if they give them space that is really necessary, and they understand, they agree on the terms.
Agree on the terms.
Yes, I believe we can, learn a lot from the private sector.
Okay.
We can rely from both. Where government feels like there's a gap in government.
Yeah.
The private sector can come in. But then there has to be cooperation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there are three elements here that we need to look into. That is the public-private partnerships, taking a look at development partners. But of course, the government, you get to realize at the end of the day, has the major, he's like the major controller, uniting these two, the private sector and the development partners coming into this.
When you look at the difference between the private sector and government, private sector usually depends on accountability. They're really very accountable because this is their personal money at the end of the day. So there is also that struggle, the contrast between the accountability part of it in government, the lack of accountability, and then the sorted version of the private sector. So that is where the problem is all about. You'll find at one point that they're actually they're fatiguing the private sector because there's been scandals in government, this and this, the money is not available. If you show these people that at least you're accountable, you have policies in place, at least they have reason to collaborate with you.
Absolutely, absolutely fine. Now, of course, so getting to see about the Uganda Development Corporation, the government through its investment vehicle, that is the Uganda Development Corporation, holds a 50%, that is an equity stake in the convention center and Speak Resort, which is valued at $50 million. So we are seeing its participation to ensure that that bridge is put together. There is harmony in terms of purchasing equity in private related entities. But of course, we shall be getting into more deeper into these discussions later on as we proceed with the show. Well, for now, let's take a look at what's really making headlines, that is in the press. Well, we have quite a number of tabloids here. Taking a look at the New Vision, the East African, and the Daily Monitor. And of course, to kickstart off here with the New Vision, government offers teachers 8,000 scholarships. Yes, of course, when you get the copy, you will get to find out, seeing that beneficiaries will study through Chambogo University in that line. Now, of course, taking a look at the economy side, as the European Union clears Uganda on money laundering matters. Of course, Kenya is one of the countries that is actually set for review in relation to money laundering. Tanzania is also part on the list, and so many more countries within East Africa.
We were also almost on the list last year.
Yeah, but we're, at least for us, it's confirmed now, it's clear. It's now Kenya heading into the hot seat to really see how that happens out. And of course, challenges that await Muhoozi, of course, after the new appointment.
Is the big boss now.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, of course, here coming in from the former Electoral Commission boss, that is Dr. Badru Chigudu, and he says that, well, you have to agree with me. You'll have to read this and, do think if you really agree with him. He says the Electoral Commission cannot be fully independent. Do you really agree with him? Well, he was able to actually head the Electoral Commission for 14 years. And in his experience, he concluded and said it cannot be fully
independent.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's someone controlling it. And of course, Museveni defending Speaker Monk amid his attacks. Critics were attacking her, controlling her on social media, most especially on X, over the statement that she gave. And of course, a lot more when you grab yourself a copy of this.
All right, now, of course, so take a look at the East African, away from that. The battle for Uganda's petrol import millions. So, of course, we are seeing here Tanzania which is availing itself of business as Nairobi and Kampala haggle over the red tape, giving Museveni a deal he definitely can't refuse. Well, that is quite an interesting aspect to check about. And of course, uncertainty clouds polls, timelines in South Sudan. And of course, taking a look at the East Africa Community Court, underfunded and it's overwhelmed at the same time. And of course, regional court officials struggle to clear backlog as partner states sue each other every other day. And of course, the big headline here, back like he never felt. Of course, Museveni's son, General Muhoozi, is now Army Chief after his promotion. That is coming at the time the veteran leader is definitely going for the 7th term.
Wow.
Yeah, question is, standby generator now or on and off? This is what it says clearly. When you grab this off the East African.
Well, of course, quite here shocking, and really, I think we have to do something about it. 9.2 million Ugandans can't read or write. That is according to UBOS. Yes, the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, and 80.6%. 80.6%. UBOS states that the adult literacy rate for Uganda between the age of 15 to 20, between the age of 15 and above, increased to 80.6%.
Illiteracy.
Wow.
Is it illiteracy?
Literacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, literacy indication. Okay. Yeah, but then 80.6 from 56.1% in 1991. However, we want to make sure that these 9.2 million can be able to read or write. How can we enable these still lingering citizens that we have? Yeah.
Okay.
I believe most of them are adults now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, adults now. But then there is also adult education. I mean, did you know that? There is also
they do them at the university. They can actually go and do filling for that perspective. But you see, this all brings us back to awareness, how people, in terms of exposure to some of this information, that actually such services really do exist. All right, now, of course, as we proceed further in the East African, seeing Uganda, Burundi delaying protocol to give the East Africa Community justice teeth. Of course, the court here, the two are yet to ratify on the rules to operationalize the extended jurisdiction of the regional court in that line. And Dodoma and Burundi in talks about the standard gauge railway link. Of course, Burundi plans to use the rail to ferry its recall, talking about cobalt and copper, to the Dar port. So Burundi and Tanzania in talks with that. As much as we see that Tanzania still and Rwanda to open a new border point. Yes. So.
Well, of course, as we look at what is happening around the world, there is a lot of heat. It's insane.
Yeah, heat,
some people actually in Uganda, some parts of Uganda, they were actually exempted from moving out between the time of 12 p.m. till maybe around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, because it was terribly hot. Yeah, and of course reports coming in that extreme heat at work can double steel bath, as researchers what is called as wet bulb global temperature, which measures the effects of temperature, humidity, and wind and radiant heat on human bodies. So please, yesterday was a little bit chilled.
It was cloudy.
It was cloudy, so it gave people an environment to really feel that anytime the weather can change. Well, as Kasese farmers demand for 370 billion to vacate wetlands. Okay. Yeah, someone was saying the heat is sponsored by. The deforestation happening in Uganda. The sun took it personal.
Okay.
It took it personal, and now these are the consequences of endangering the nature.
Absolutely. We just can't do that, and we expect that we shall just get out with that. Now, of course, taking a look at the European Union, which is clear as Uganda on money laundering. Of course, further details here that Uganda also adopted a national AML/CFT and a countering proliferation financing strategy. Which definitely entails the use of mutual legal assistance. These are part of the reforms that have been taken by Uganda to make sure that there are no other allegations by all means that we are into the money laundering aspect. Now, of course, taking a look at a special report here in the New Vision, to the Rwenzori, Uganda's glacial rooftop, amazing scenery. Of course, there are lots of aspects that are being discussed in relation with that. As you grab yourself a copy, you'll find out. Now, of course, taking a look here at the double efforts towards sustainability of natural resources, says Deputy Prime Minister. So you'll find out that. And of course, as we proceed, a retired judge to mediate in the UPDF soldiers' land case. Yes, so you find out the details regarding that matter. And maybe shifting swiftly here to take a look at the East African, seeing a state of media freedom in Kenya here. Of course, journalists say work environment has deteriorated in the recent past. This is journalists in the country of Kenya. Well, that is it for our press briefing at this point in time. Let's switch, take a look at what's happening in the world of traffic. Of course, that is Ginger Road, definitely linking up straight to, Kampala Road, linking up straight to Ginger Road, seeing the situation there. Yeah, of course, if you're coming in from Kampala and you're switching to Ginger Road, I normally advise you can pass via the Nile Avenue route, link up to Garden City, then come straight here. There you will be in position to go to reach in time. That is for only, this only applies to those that are crossing all the way straight to Ginger Road, and not those that are heading to other destinations, probably towards Access Road. There you will have to be patient. And it explains why we see vehicles still coming along. That is the Nile Avenue route. Of course, they have to be really patient. But if you just pass there, if you can take a look for example, those that are heading into Ginger Road straight, they don't have to join the traffic there. They will have to proceed straight away. And of course, heading into what we call the Holy Week. Yes, so many activities will be happening along the way. The city will be a bit busy in terms of the different, of course, consumers getting ready for the Easter weekend, which we're heading into very, very shortly. Yes, so a lot of activity will be heading away. Some people will be having their holidays. So later on, at some point, the city will be a little bit empty, as some will have traveled up country to celebrate the Easter season. Yes, as we can see there. So you'll have to be patient for just about 5 to 10 minutes. If you probably are coming in from the Yusuf Ruleb Road and you're heading straight to the Access Road, yes, it will call in for that patience before you're set free to go, unlike for those that are coming in through that is from other destinations. Now, of course, switching our eyes briefly away from the Nile Avenue route, the Yusuf Ruleb Road, we take a look at the vehicles. It's quite unbelievable that those vehicles coming in from Kampala Road heading to Ginger Road have just been set free at this point in time. So that brings me to the estimation of 10 minutes delay if you're coming in from Kampala Road and you're heading towards Ginger Road to other given destinations. Yeah, so that is what we are observing. And of course, adjacent to that, we have the Access Road, which we shall later on be observing. But also not forgetting that we have those that are coming in, leaving Ginger Road, and they're connecting straight to Kampala Road. Unlike, of course, those ones normally colliding with people along the old Port Bell Road. Vehicles can get stuck on the Airtel roundabout before they can be set free to head to other destinations. Of course, there is that. Port Bell Road, because we know Bugolobi, Luzira, Chitinta, and so many other areas, combined with the vehicles that are coming in from Jinja Road. So we normally see some congestion. But of course, we are seeing now vehicles moving smoothly that have just been set free in the last few seconds, as we are still observing this. But it calls for absolute patience. Monday is always a rush hour day. Like we know, majority of the companies normally having those weekly meetings, getting to see what is the strategy of executing the activities in the company for the week. So it needs meeting some heads, as heads of department, meeting together to see how they can make it work. And of course, seeing just a few vehicles are just being held shortly along that road, but it doesn't seem to be much congested, because when we take a look from the way all up there, it seems to be a bit free, unlike on other certain days where you can see a huge fleet all the way from up across the edge around without coming as you're approaching the Port Bell Road. But this time around, it doesn't seem really much of a congested area. Well, that is it for our traffic report this particular morning. Exactly 26 minutes past 7. I will take a short break, and of course we are returning with the Caribou, East Africa and the international updates. Stick around.